And nothing is ever easy as you think it is going to be. Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is what we get up to when we got nothing else to get up to. It's time for me to bust out this Aerospace Components brake kit that I bought probably almost 2 years ago to install on my Fox here. So this is a pretty high-end kit that they sell, because this is the vented rotor street kit, which adds a significant amount to the price. 4 piston calipers. I don't know if it's any lighter than the stock stuff. I mean, with a cast iron caliper and things like that, but sure is fancy looking. And this is what it's going to take kind of video to install this on my car. I bought this kit off of a guy who, looking at it, it hardly has any use, but he wanted to go 5-lug, and so he sold me the 4-lug kit that he had. He bought a Willwood kit instead. So if you've seen in my previous videos, all these parts were in Willwood boxes, even though they're Aerospace Components brakes. But here, reading the instructions, looking at stuff, and I already have concerns. And there's other parts that we needed to install this, and I'll bring it in and I'll start talking to you about some of these little issues before we even get started. It must be known that if you use these brakes, the style brakes on a Fox, they are going to put your wheel hub flange out approximately another 3/4 of an inch. So with my wheel combination, I got 17x8 reproduction ponies on the front here. I got 17x9s on the back, but with the 245 45/17s, it puts it right there at the wheel arch. I mean, just every now and then you can hear it just kind of rub just a teeny bit on the bolt or the screw for the inner fender splash shield. And I got the paint off that screw just to prove it. But in order to run this, you need a shorter A-arm. So this is a Team Z kit here, and this is their stock front A-arms, so I had to order the shorter by 1-inch A-arms. So theoretically, when it's all said and done, I'm going to have a 1/4 inch extra clearance. Yeah, it's more money, but it's going to give me a little bit nicer fitment, I think, all things considered. So it's not an unwelcome upgrade. And in order to fit said A-arms, you got to take the 2 big bolts out. And looking in here, yeah, I got to take these bolts out, but I also didn't realize that I'm going to have to drop the power steering rack to do it. And that's something I wasn't expecting, and it's going to be really annoying to do. So hopefully I don't, there's nothing more than taking the 2 big bolts out and just moving things around, but that's something I wasn't expecting. And it's just going to add aggravation to the swap. And looking at all these parts, the other point that I'm going to very much have to research is these rotors, because I think they're assembled wrong. If I show you this picture from Aerospace Components website, the aluminum part stands a lot more proud out of the rotor than these do. So I don't know if something here, because they don't give you any indications at all in these instructions on how these are supposed to be put together. So I think I got to take these bolts loose and reposition this rotor in relation to, like, maybe on top of this steel part, and then put it all back together and Loctite and torque it back down. So I got to do research. I don't know if I can get any instructions for just the rotors on their website. I got to put it together and kind of mock it up to make sure maybe it does go together like this in this application, but something doesn't seem right to me. So I'm going to throw everything up in the air and see where it lands. But yeah, I'm going to get caliper off, rotor off, start mocking up for the brackets, and start getting into this. What they want you to do is drill these to 5/16. So these are the whole screw holes for your dust cover. That should have been on there, but I never had it there. And then you're gonna tap it to, what is this, 3/8/16. So I got a nice sharp tap, and this is cast iron, well, probably cast steel, since it's hardened here. And we're gonna get this drilled and tapped out. And the big thing is there's no going back from this, because you have to, you see kind of where the ears are for the brake caliper mounting. And according to the instructions, you need to trim off your spindle. So we gotta like cut this nub off, and we're gonna have to cut it off around here, you know, kind of go do it close and nice to save some weight, but there's no going back from this. So yeah, the instructions really don't tell you you're committing that far. All it says is so some models of the disc brakes have ears where the OEM calipers are mounted, and these ears will interfere with your Aerospace Components brake kit. When removing these ears, remove as little as possible. The original dust cover bolt holes will be used to mount your new kit. As little as possible doesn't really mean like, oh, you're gonna cut a little corner off. You're gonna chop the whole dang thing off practically. So anyways, now to make some sparks, I guess, drill some holes. Well, I figure I got it, so I may as well use it. I'm gonna use this DeWalt hand powered bandsaw, and I'm gonna chop these ears off. So, and I hope I don't regret this, because I'm in England and you just can't find spindles like this hanging around in case you want to go back and put it back to stock. So let me turn the wheel here. I got a brand new blade on here. Let's start with the easy one first. Well, that's real time. Cuts like cast iron. Well, see, that's less than a minute total cut time. All right, I guess I'll dress these down and we'll get drilling and tapping. All right, well, time lapse stalled. This is a week and a half later now, because this is not a amateur hour for drilling and tapping. I gotta say that much. So drilled it out easy enough, had the right drill bit for it, and then I tried to use my original Japanese Hansen tap set, which is, you know, pretty awesome set of taps, and started in this one, and I got about 3/4 of the way in, and I couldn't turn it anymore for fear of snapping the tap off. So I thought these were still in great shape. They still had, you know, sharp cutting teeth on them, but this is a deep hole, and if you don't get this tap perfectly straight, because this wasn't like you know, a super, you know, tapered tap or anything like that, so this was like the second stage. It wasn't a bottoming tap, so it was middle of the road as far as the pointiness was concerned, and I guess it started getting a little off center, and yeah, these are 3/4 of an inch of cast hardened steel. Well, cast iron, cast steel, whatever you want to call it. It still makes loads of sparks when you grind it. But yeah, I wasn't going to go any further with this tap for fear of snapping it off. So I ordered some. And first one that came here in England was this 3/8 16 tap. And got it, you know, nice and sharp. Ran it through. It was beautiful because it was a nice tapered one. Went to go put the bolt in, and it got half a thread in and it stopped. It wouldn't go anymore. So I was like, what the heck's wrong with this tap? Well, this is the British 3/8, what was it, BSW thread. So unbeknownst to me, there's lots of different thread types, and, you know, I went on Amazon and ordered it. You know, got here the next day, and that wasn't it, because this thing will go right in there and it'll run down the threads, but the threads have a different angle to them. So, you know, wasted money on that. So I ordered a nice set of, you know, as good as I can get. I'm trying to stay away from Chinesium. Presto taps, they're made in Sheffield here in England, but at least it's the 3 tap set, you know, the full tapered, middle of the road, and then the bottoming tap. And I just got it done ran it through. This one is extra tough because these are 3/4 of an inch. This one is 1 1/4 inches. So this is definitely, if you're going to do this ever, brand new set of taps. And I wouldn't do anything else for fear of what I ran into of snapping one of these things off. So I mean, I'm going to still use this tap for like cleaning up block and chasing threads and stuff like that, but it's going to cycle it down. So now we got the aluminum plate to put on for the backing plate. And you know, I did trim these up a little bit more with the bandsaw. Used an angle grinder with a flap disc, smooth them out. Shot them with a little bit of cast iron gray, and that's the way they're going to stay. So it looks like these were the bolts that were used. So I'm going to have to use some red Loctite, and we will get this mounted and then on to the next step. Well, according to these instructions, it says here to use red Loctite, use lots of that, torque bolts to 50 foot-pounds. Well, using this Allen key, and if it's in there like it should, you ain't ever going to get to 50 foot-pounds with this without snapping that off. So you can see how tweaked it is. And I got up to 35 foot-pounds. And yeah, so you can get the bolts on the back or the nuts on the back kind of tight. This one at the front, since it's got a 1/2 inch and 1/4 of engagement in the spindle, I mean, even the big long bolt barely goes all the way through the nylock portion. So for fear of stripping that out, I didn't get it as tight as the nuts on these two, but that's a weird procedure when I don't think they really thought it through of the fasteners that they're using and what you're going to use and how tight you'll be able to get it. But that ain't going nowhere, you know, with all that Loctite and how tight it is. So on to the next step. So caliper, or actually rotor hub mounting. So these were on there previously. I think it is a wise decision for me to take these apart, re-grease them, and I'll get this mounted on there. It's just like mounting a brake rotor, and I'll bring it right back when this is on. All right, we're learning as we go. Have to mount the brake rotor to the hub before you put it on. I was looking at the rotors here, and you would like to think that with the spirally pattern, that the way you would think it travels from the inside out to clean the brake dust off the pads as you're rolling forward, you would think the spinning action would be this way. But then if you look at behind the rotor on the other side, you get to a spot, I can show you here. There's no way for me to stop. You got this little arrow. Well, the arrow I thought should have been flipped around on the brake rotor. You would think it would point to spinning this way, which is exactly the opposite of the way the swirly swirls work. So I was backing and forth figuring which rotor goes on which side, because these have, you know, a dish on this part here, and this part sticks out, but this part is the one with the bevel in it for the countersink bolts going from the backside. So I was flipping these around, figure out which one went where. How did they assemble it? Did they put, because these rotors, I guess they can go on the other way on this side and tighten it down, but I figured this was already on a car. You can see that, you know, the marks here from where this was installed on the hub, you know, that pattern. So figures, first time I put it together, had it on there, you mount the caliper, and the caliper was like way the heck not where it needed to be. So what you needed to do is take it all back apart. I had to swap the rotor for the other one, but at least now the spinny spins are seemingly going the right way to give me the offset, more offset than I needed. And the shims go here to space the caliper out. So you put the rotor right in the middle of the caliper, and then the pads float and bite into it that way. So apart and together, and apart and together, and apart together. You know, me using red Loctite should have probably been using that for mock-up before I figured out what all that needed to happen. So I got it here. I'm happy with this. Still has to come apart one more time to re-red Loctite everything, re-torque everything, and then it'll stay here until I get the steering rack off so I can take that bolt out and swap the A-arms. I'll pop this bottom ball joint loose here. And once I got this side scienced, then I can do the other side. So more stuff to do, but hey, it's Saturday night now, and I'm just getting on with it. Well, here we are again. My disappointment is immense. So, Foxes Abroad gets hit again with bad parts. So, let me bring you in. Alright, I finally was able to wrestle the A-arm out because, you know, the turbo down tube's in the way and I couldn't get the rack out far enough. I didn't want to drop the bolts, so I did what I had to do, but managed to get it out of there, got it down, and then went to go compare it to the new A-arm to go in. And looking at it, and the differences are, you know, nothing. So this was supposed to be 1 inch shorter from the pivot point to the ball joint, so we can push this in further and we can compensate for the difference in this brake setup. So I bought this when I got this stuff about 2 years ago. I ordered this in February of 2024. You know, it took a while for me to get the rest of some of the parts. I need the brake hoses and the master cylinder and other things, getting ready to do the swap. But then that's when I found out that the motor was bad. And then, you know, that took priority over this. So this just sat. Now comes time to put it in, and they are not the right darn ones. So the way they measure these is, I just have this whole piece of steel here. So you measure from the pivot point to the middle of the ball joint. So let's try to get the middle of the pivot point there. And it's about 13 inches. So these are supposed to be 12 inches. So I swapped the bar over here. And I go to measure this one. And this one is also 13 inches. So I ordered the right ones. You can see right here is my old invoice. Managed to pull it up on TeamZ's site. So it is Martin Luther King vacation weekend. They don't work Saturdays or Sundays. I'll be trying to call them on Monday and see if they're there, but man, I hope they'll exchange them at least. I mean, it's going to cost me money to send them back, ship it for the new parts, but this is $315 more if I end up having to eat this and buy another set. And then what the hell am I going to do with another good set of A-arms? Two sets of A-arms I can't use. So, I mean, maybe one day I'd have a use to maybe put these on the 85 in the States, because I have their autocross A-arms in that car. And I don't like how the bend is in the front, because it really almost touches the A-arm or the steering rack in certain points across the suspension travel. So I wasn't happy with that really, but what was I going to do back in the day? And I just went with it. But I'll have maybe a use for one of these, but I don't have to sell them and take another hit. But now we're stalled again. I guess I could work on the other side, prep it in the meantime, but that's only a couple hours worth of work. So here my car sits down again. So no progress can be made. Maybe I can do the rear end. So I'm putting the disc brakes on that. That should be straightforward. Just got to get some gear oil for it, some of the friction modifier stuff. But an abrupt end to this video anyway, guys. I was hoping to run it all the way through, but it's going to be a couple good weeks until we get the parts sorted out and I get back on it. So anyways, there you have it for now. We'll pick up part 2 here as soon as I can. So thanks for sticking to the end, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye-bye.